The Parliamentary Assembly assembled here in Berlin for 3 days, and you can imagine that the issues of security in the region, the issues of Afghanistan, was just one of the major topics there. And of course, it is obvious that Pakistan and the region of Pakistan play a major role. There have been major representatives of Pakistan present the whole 3 days, and they had the opportunity also to speak out and participate openly in our discussion. So it's widely known that if we deal with the issue of the situation in Afghanistan, the Pakistan and its areas play a major role there. I would like to start with a sentence of common sense. There is no security without development, and there's no development without security. It's a common sense sentence, everybody knows it, but still it has some implications, and I'm not quite sure whether the international policymakers, although they all know this sentence and would subscribe to this sentence, they act accordingly. If I just compare the military engagement in Afghanistan, just money-wise and by body count, with what we do on the other side to develop the country, there is, as we all know, a mismatch. And we all know, and military people know it, and we all know, policymakers know it. There is no way that by military means alone we can get any solution at all. We know we have to use military means if appropriate, but we know that at the end of the day, by military means, we will not be able to pacify the region. We will not be able to solve the problem. So everybody talks about the comprehensive approach, and it's nice. And I must applaud my German government that at least in the last 2 or 3 years they tried to implement the notion of the comprehensive approach within NATO. So in the Bucharest summit, they have passed a major statement that this comprehensive approach would now be in place, and one should work accordingly. I think by far we are not there yet. Even in Germany, we're not there yet. As well as I applauded my government just a sentence ago, I criticize it by saying that this comprehensive approach, we call it in German vernetzte Sicherheit, is not really installed in German politics for the time being. And maybe jokingly, half jokingly, I once in a plenary meeting of our Bundestag said it would be a good sign of comprehensive approach if the two ministers of defense, Mr. Jung, and of development, Mrs. Wieczorek-Zoll, would fly to Afghanistan together in one plane, and the door opens, and the two of them, the two major politicians of Germany, step out of the aircraft saying, we represent the German approach to this country, and just to make it very open. They laughed, and because they are both from Hesse, they said, it must be possible, etc., Hesse North, Hesse South, but nothing has happened so far. So I think we know what we have to do, but we are still not there, unfortunately. With regard to these federal administrative tribal areas, we all know how complicated it is. We all know the history. You know it much better than I do, but I read something about it, and I'm familiarized a bit with the situation. I think as a starting point, one should discuss this context maybe in a broader sense, in a sense of how to deal with individuals or leaders that have the power over a certain region, but have adverse goals and use adverse means to what we think is appropriate. How to deal with them? Should we deal with them at all? Should we just try to fight them militarily? Should we try to negotiate with them? Should we get in political accord with them? Should we deal with it? And it's very complicated. We have had this arrangement in Musa Qala in Afghanistan, which worked for a while and then didn't work again. And of course, at the moment, we have we see that we have very complicated and discussions in the region, especially that the Pakistan government is probably about, and you probably are much more aware of it than I am, what what's really happening behind the scenes. That there might be an arrangement between the Pakistan government and Mr. Massoud, who is allegedly behind the assassination of Benazir Bhutto, and openly says that even if he would come to such an arrangement with the Pakistan government, he would openly fight against Afghanistan because he thinks that's the right thing to do. I think it's very complicated for sitting here in Berlin and try to help and try to do something about to deal with such issues, and I don't have a fixed solution for it. My major point is there, it's always good to talk. And I'm one of the guys in Germany who I would talk to the devil even. And very often I'm criticized by my embassies when I go. I was in Egypt just recently and I talked to the Muslim brothers. I said, I want to talk to them. I went to Beirut and I wanted to talk to Hezbollah. I went to Ramallah and I wanted to talk to Hamas people because I want to talk to them and I want them to know what I think and I want to hear what they say. So it's always important. I think exclude somebody from really talking to them and try to negotiate is not the right thing to do. On the other hand, to accept a deal between the Pakistan government and a leader, Massoud, for instance, who said, well, we make a deal, but this gives me, he doesn't say it openly, but he means it, of course, that gives me the opportunity to have room here and maneuver room to fight against Afghanistan, of course, is complicated. I would like to end my statement with a point that may not be popular here, but I still want to make it. This is the border situation between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I know it is a colonial border. I know it, and you know it much better, but I know it also. And it's not a just border, but which border in the world of today is just? But I think for us in the West, it is, let me put it like this, almost unacceptable that this border is not respected. And by just saying it's an unjust border, etc., etc. And I have to tell you, I have, as a German politician who wants to be re-elected one of these days, I have to defend what we do in the region to my voters. And I would tell my voters in Germany how much money and effort we put in the region, rightly so, I support it. But on the other hand, that we accept that the two major players there don't accept a border. Let me tell you, it's very hard for me to explain it to the men on the street in Germany. So please take this into account, that we have to defend what we do here in our public. And I think it's important that we do something, that you do, the power brokers in the region do something about the border there, because otherwise it will be very hard to try what we want to do. And that's why, and ending, I would say how much I support the initiative that was made, because I said in the beginning, there is no security without development, and what you try to do with your initiative here is exactly what's the right thing to do, to develop a region in order to make it safer for the region itself, for Pakistan, and of course for the overall regional conflict. And this is very good, this is very important, and I think we should give you all the support that's possible. And last sentence, I think it's very important and very positive that in this effort, the Gulf Cooperation Council is a supporter. It's very important, and again, we always have to discuss it in our public. How come that the regional partners, the regional players, don't play a major role? I mean, I'm dealing a lot with the Middle East, with the conflict between Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, etc., etc. And again, there, of course, we say, how come that the regional players, the Arab League, doesn't play a major role, the other Arab nations? So I think it is important, it is very important that the regional players, the regional countries, the regional players there play a major role and be involved in such an initiative and support it. And what I read from the papers, that the Gulf Cooperation Council is very supportive and spends a lot of money in it, and I think, well, they have it, you should spend it for a wise thing to do. So I think it's a very good initiative and we should support it. Thank you very much.